Ancient discovery reveals a terrifying secret. Behind the death of a 3,600-year-old Egyptian pharaoh, there are things lying right beneath our feet. Yet they carry the secrets of thousands of years of history. There are skeletons, coins, or even just a single tooth that are powerful enough to tell the story of an entire era that has vanished. And the most unsettling part is, many of them were never meant to be found. They were buried, forgotten, or deliberately erased from humanity's memory. So if these discoveries truly reveal a truth that history has never told, would you dare to face it? Welcome to the Ancient History Channel, where we dig deep into mysteries buried by time, where every archaeological discovery is not just an artifact, but a story that has never been fully told. From mummies bearing traces of ancient diseases, to skeletons that recount the painful lives of forgotten people, to treasures of hundreds of thousands of coins buried during times of chaos, or ancient cities that were once thriving but now remain as ruins in the desert. There are even enormous creatures that once existed, like ants the size of birds, revealed through fossils compressed deep within the earth for tens of millions of years. Each discovery is a crucial piece of history, and when put together, they allow us not only to see the past, but to begin questioning the very world we live in today. In today's video, we will uncover the mysteries surrounding these discoveries. So, are you ready to explore some of the strangest and most haunting findings ever uncovered around the world with me? If you are, then let's begin with the very first discovery, right now. The mummy of the brave Pharaoh, and the terrifying truth behind a death buried for 3,600 years in Egypt. In the deserts of Egypt, where time itself seems to have fallen asleep, a mummy was discovered bearing wounds that could not be explained. And as the past was reconstructed, a brutal death slowly came to light. Yes, the mummy we are talking about is that of Pharaoh Seqenenre-Tao II, a real historical figure in ancient Egypt who ruled the southern region of the country around 1600 BC. He was no ordinary king, but one later generations would call by a name filled with courage, the Brave. Of course, this title was not given lightly. Many experts believe he was the leader who rose to command Egyptian forces against the Hyksos, foreign rulers of West Asian origin who sought to control the fertile Nile Delta. Yet history does not clearly record how he died, and that is where the mystery begins. It wasn't until the late 19th century when the mummy of Seqenenre-Tao II was discovered in Deir el-Bahari, near Luxor, Egypt, that archaeologists began to realize his death was anything but simple. From the very first observations, they noticed unusual marks on his face, injuries that should never have appeared on the carefully embalmed body of a king. Decades later, in the 1960s, X-ray technology was used for the first time to examine the mummy, and when the images appeared, experts were nearly stunned. A series of severe injuries covered his head and face, deep cuts, sharp puncture wounds, all pointing to an extremely violent death. But what made this even more disturbing was that these wounds had been skillfully concealed by ancient embalmers. Why would they do that? This question sparked debate among researchers for decades. Some believed he died in battle, others suspected an assassination within the royal court. But for years, these remained only theories, until modern technology stepped in once again. In recent years, scientists have used CT scans and 3D reconstruction to analyze the mummy in greater detail than ever before. And this time, the truth could no longer be hidden. According to research by archaeologist Zahi Hawass and radiology professor Sahar Salim of Cairo University, Seqenenre-Tao II did not die in a typical battle. Instead, he was killed in a brutal execution ritual after being captured as a prisoner. Hearing this, you can probably already imagine the terrifying scenario. A king who once led armies into battle, ultimately falling into enemy hands. The clearest evidence lies in his own body, particularly his deformed hands, suggesting they were likely bound tightly behind his back. That means he had no ability to defend himself. And it doesn't stop there. Researchers also compared the wounds on his head with Hyksos weapons preserved at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. The results showed a striking match. The cuts likely came from axes, the deep punctures from spears, and marks from daggers, all inflicted on the body of a single king. This indicates he was not attacked just once, but deliberately executed using multiple weapons, possibly by several attackers at the same time. What makes this even more haunting is that all of these signs had once been hidden. Ancient Egyptian embalmers worked with extraordinary precision. They did not simply preserve the body, they attempted to repair the damage, restoring the king's dignified appearance as if trying to erase the brutal truth of his death. Perhaps to the ancient Egyptians, revealing such a violent end was unacceptable, especially for a pharaoh. A king could not be seen to have died in such humiliation. But as we know, history is not so easily buried forever. Modern technology has changed everything. After thousands of years hidden beneath the sands, the truth has finally come to light. Sekenenre-Tao II, the Brave, died at around 40 years old, not in glory, but in pain and helplessness. Just thinking about that detail is enough to send chills down your spine, isn't it? It makes you realize, without the scientific advances of today, this secret might never have been uncovered. And perhaps that is what makes the story of Sekenenre-Tao II more than just the death of a king. It is a reminder that sometimes the most terrifying truths are the ones humanity has deliberately tried to hide for thousands of years. 4,000-year-old tomb discovered in Egypt. The true identity of the mummy inside shocks archaeologists. You know, in the scorching deserts of Egypt, there is a tomb that lay silent for thousands of years, yet its vibrant colors remain as if time had never touched them. At first, people thought it was just an ordinary ancient tomb until the door was opened. Inside, there were not only paintings, not only carvings, but also a major question about the identity of the person buried within. And what puzzled scientists the most was this: the individual lying there might not be as ordinary as history once recorded. So what exactly makes this person so unusual? To find the answer, we have to travel back to early 2019. At that time, Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities officially announced the discovery of a tomb dating back about 4,000 years at the ancient necropolis of Saqqara, south of Cairo, Egypt. This area had long served as the final resting place for many powerful figures in ancient Egyptian history, but this particular tomb stood out above the rest. According to researchers, the tomb was identified as belonging to a nobleman named Kui, who lived during Egypt's 5th dynasty, a period spanning the 24th to 25th centuries BC. This was an era when royal power reached its peak, and tomb constructions clearly reflected the social status of the deceased. Shortly after the discovery, Egypt's Minister of Antiquities at the time, Khaled El-Anani, invited ambassadors and international officials to visit the site, underscoring the importance of this find. And when the first images were released, the world was left almost stunned. Kui's tomb stood out in Saqqara not because of its size, but because of its design and color. The excavation team leader, Mohammed Mujahid, explained that the tomb features an L-shaped structure, a relatively rare design. From the entrance, a narrow corridor leads down to an antechamber, which then opens into a larger inner room. And it is this chamber that holds the most astonishing details. The walls are completely covered with colorful carvings and paintings, depicting Kui seated at an offering table receiving ceremonial gifts. Despite the passage of millennia, many of these details have retained their vivid colors, something typically seen only in tombs built for royalty. At this point, you might already sense that something doesn't quite add up, right? Would an ordinary nobleman really be granted such an elaborately decorated tomb with such luxurious colors? And that's not all. The tomb's tunnel-style entrance is another striking feature, as this type of architecture is usually found only in the pyramids of pharaohs. This has led archaeologists to propose a major hypothesis. Kui may have had a special relationship with Pharaoh Djedkare-Isesi, the ruler at the time whose pyramid lies nearby. Some experts believe Kui could have been a member of the royal family, possibly even related by blood to the pharaoh. However, others argue that the tomb's unique design does not necessarily reflect personal status, but could instead be the result of administrative and funerary reforms during Djedkare-Isesi's reign. In other words, it may signal a transitional period in how ancient Egyptians viewed death and the afterlife. And then, the moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. Inside the tomb, archaeologists discovered Kui's mummy. Although it was not completely intact, the find was enough to confirm the identity of the tomb's owner. In addition, they uncovered canopic jars, an essential part of ancient Egyptian mummification rituals. Unfortunately, these jars had been shattered into many pieces over time. Yet even these fragments hold immense value. They not only provide insight into mummification practices, but also help scientists better understand Kui's social standing, as well as the burial customs of that era. For this reason, the entire tomb is expected to shed new light on the 40-year reign of Pharaoh Djedkare Isisi, a period that still contains many unanswered questions in history. Mass grave of 60 warriors in Egypt reveals a terrifying truth about a battle buried 4,000 years ago. There is a tomb lying silently in the Egyptian desert, but inside, it does not contain just one body. It holds dozens laid side by side. There is no glittering gold, no royal splendor, only the remnants of a bloody battle. And more chilling than anything else, these mummies still bear the fatal wounds on their bodies. The tomb I'm referring to is a 4,000-year-old burial site discovered in the area of Deir el-Bahari, Egypt, a place renowned for its ancient tombs and sacred relics of Nile civilization. Specifically, in 1923, archaeologists uncovered this extraordinary mass grave. Unlike the individual tombs typically found in ancient Egypt, where each person had their own resting place, this one contained as many as 60 mummies, all placed together in a single enclosed space. Shortly after its discovery, the tomb was sealed for further study, as experts quickly realized this was no ordinary find. As you may know, in ancient Egyptian culture, mass burials were extremely rare, especially for mummified individuals, a process that required great care and ritual precision. So what caused these 60 people to be buried together? Through years of research, archaeologists gradually traced the story back to around 2150 BC, a turbulent period in ancient Egyptian history. During this time, the country was no longer stable. Conflicts and wars erupted frequently, plunging society into chaos. And it appears that the 60 individuals in this tomb were victims of one of those brutal conflicts. Upon closer examination, experts found that most of the mummies bore severe injuries. These were not signs of disease or old age, but clear evidence of trauma caused by combat. Many skulls were shattered, indicating powerful blows to the head. Their bodies also showed numerous cuts and puncture wounds, believed to have been inflicted by swords, arrows, and other ancient weapons. These marks were not just injuries, they were direct evidence of a deadly battle. At this point, you can probably imagine the horrifying scene, a chaotic battlefield where warriors fought to their last breath. There was no mercy, no retreat. And when it was over, only bodies remained. People who once lived and fought, now reduced to silent pieces of history. But what surprised scientists even more was this. Despite dying in battle, these warriors were still carefully mummified before burial. This suggests they were not unknown individuals, but respected fighters, perhaps even men of status within their society. However, instead of being buried individually according to tradition, they were placed together in a single tomb. This may reflect the urgency of that time, when war claimed so many lives that burial practices had to change. Archaeologist Salima Ikram described their deaths as extremely painful and terrifying, and when looking at the wounds still etched into their bones, one can almost feel the brutality of the battle that took their lives. But the story doesn't end there. This mass grave is not just a burial site, it is a frozen snapshot of history, capturing a time when Egypt was far from the peaceful land we often imagine. It reveals that behind the grandeur of pyramids and the power of pharaohs were wars, losses, and countless lives that fell in silence. Without the 1923 discovery at Deir el-Bahari, we might never have known the story of these 60 warriors. They might have remained forever beneath the desert sands, nameless, ageless, and forgotten. Heartbreaking, isn't it? It reminds us that history is not only written by victories, but also carved by those who fell. 700-year-old mummy in Bolivia reveals the secret of an ancient disease before the arrival of Europeans. There is a mummy lying silently in the freezing Andes Mountains, yet it carries traces of a disease that still exists today. It is the body of a man who died more than 700 years ago, but his remains are now telling a story that modern science has only recently begun to understand. So what exactly did scientists discover in this mummy? And what does that discovery reveal about human history? Let's find out. The story begins in Bolivia, a country in South America where the majestic Andes stretch across vast and rugged terrain. During archaeological surveys in the 20th century, scientists uncovered numerous naturally preserved mummies inside ancient structures known as chulpas, funerary towers scattered throughout the Andean highlands of Bolivia. These mummies have been dated to around 700 years old, buried between approximately AD 1000 and 1450. After the fall of the pre-Inca Tiwanaku civilization and before the rise of the powerful Inca Empire. Among them, one particular mummy captured the attention of researchers. It was the body of a young man who lived sometime between AD 1283 and 1383, discovered inside a chulpa in Bolivia. What made this mummy unique was not only its relatively good state of preservation, but also a striking detail. The man's skull had been deliberately deformed, a cultural practice found in some ancient societies to signify status or belief. But the real secret was only revealed when scientists conducted ancient DNA analysis on the remains. And what they found was astonishing. Inside one of the mummy's teeth, researchers were able to isolate nearly the entire genome of a bacterium called Streptococcus pyogenes, also known as Group A Streptococcus. This is the same bacterium that today causes illnesses such as strep throat, scarlet fever, and various other infections worldwide. At this point, you might be thinking, what's so unusual about that? The surprising part is this. Previously, scientists had no evidence that this bacterium existed in the Americas before the arrival of Europeans. In other words, it was widely believed that many infectious diseases were brought over from Europe during the Age of Exploration. However, the discovery from this 700-year-old mummy in Bolivia completely changed that assumption. The bacterium's genome shows that it had existed in the Americas for a very long time, diverging from modern strains around 10,000 years ago. This timeline coincides with the period when the first human groups arrived in the Andes, where they may have encountered entirely new disease-carrying animals. But the story doesn't stop there. Further analysis revealed the presence of another bacterium, Clostridium botulinum, which is associated with severe food poisoning. This suggests that the man may have faced multiple health threats at the same time, and when scientists examined his bones, they found signs of poor nutrition, indicating he likely lived in a densely populated environment with constant migration. These conditions may have weakened his immune system, making him more vulnerable to disease. Just imagine living in a crowded society with virtually no medical care, while being exposed to dangerous bacteria. How slim were the chances of survival back then? Even so, despite uncovering many critical clues, experts have not yet been able to determine the exact cause of this man's death. Did he die from infection or from another unknown factor? That question remains unanswered. But one thing is certain. The 700-year-old mummy discovered in the Chulpas of Bolivia has provided a major breakthrough for science. It not only helps us better understand diseases of the past, but also raises new questions about the evolution and spread of bacteria throughout human history. Fascinating, isn't it? The remains of a 1,000-year-old church from the Holy Roman Empire discovered in Germany. In an area near Helfta, in the state of Saxony-Anhalt, Germany, during a modern archaeological campaign in May aimed at searching for traces of an ancient royal palace, archaeologists made an unexpected discovery: the remains of a church dating back about 1,000 years. This was no ordinary church. According to historical records, it was built under the orders of Otto I, also known as Otto the Great, the first emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. He was one of the most powerful figures in medieval Europe, living from AD 912 to 973, and played a crucial role in consolidating and expanding the empire, centered in what is now Germany, while controlling vast territories across Central Europe. At this point, you might be wondering, what exactly was the Holy Roman Empire? Simply put, it was an empire formed with the ambition of restoring the glory of the Western Roman Empire while also maintaining a balance of power with the Roman Catholic Church. Unlike earlier Roman emperors, who were often elected and served as protectors of the Church, Otto I became emperor in a more unique way. He was crowned by the Pope himself in Rome. Now, back to the archaeological discovery. The research team from the State Office for Heritage Management and Archaeology of Saxony-Anhalt, led by archaeologist Felix Biermann, originally set out to locate the remains of an ancient palace, but what they uncovered turned out to be even more significant. Beneath the ground, the ruins of a large church began to emerge. The structure featured 3 aisles and stretched about 98 feet in length. Its layout followed the shape of a cross, a defining characteristic of medieval religious architecture. 1,000 years ago, this site was an important religious center where sacred rituals took place, closely tied to imperial authority. Historical sources indicate that Otto I ordered the construction of this church along with a nearby palace. Interestingly, however, he is believed to have visited the site only once, around the year 968, when the church was inaugurated. So why did such an important structure disappear? The answer lies in a major turning point in European history, the Protestant Reformation of the 16th century. As this wave of religious reform spread, many Catholic structures were destroyed or abandoned, and this church was no exception. Over the centuries, it was gradually buried beneath layers of soil, nearly vanishing entirely from the historical record. But the story doesn't end with the crumbling walls. During the excavation, archaeologists uncovered numerous valuable artifacts. Among them was a bronze cross decorated with enamel in the Romanesque style, crafted in Limoges, in the new Aquitaine region of France during the 13th century. They also found a large fragment of a church bell, an enamel brooch dating back to the 9th century, and several ancient coins. And that's not all. Around the church site, researchers discovered multiple ancient graves, including some constructed with bricks, an indication that this area once served as an important burial ground. At present, excavations and skeletal analyses are still ongoing, promising to reveal more insights into life, beliefs, and power during the time of Otto the Great. Archaeologists note that Otto I had numerous palaces with churches built nearby throughout his empire. Therefore, the discovery of this church is of immense value, not only to archaeologists but also to the historical heritage of Germany. 4,000-year-old buried city in Turkmenistan, Gonur-Tepe, and a forgotten civilization in the desert. In the vast deserts of Turkmenistan, there is a place that looks completely unremarkable from the ground, but rise just a little higher into the air, and an entire ancient maze suddenly appears beneath the golden sands. A city that was once crowded, once thriving, is now reduced to silent traces. So what caused an entire civilization to vanish without a trace for thousands of years? The answer leads us to Gonur-Tepe, an archaeological site located in the Karakum Desert, about a 3-hour journey from the city of Mary and roughly 31 miles from the famous ruins of Merv. Today, the area appears so desolate that it is hard to believe that more than 4,000 years ago, it was once the center of a major civilization. Gonur-Tepe was discovered in the 20th century by archaeologists from the former Soviet Union. Since then, each excavation season has brought new findings, gradually revealing the picture of a once powerful but little-known society. According to research, around 2000 BC, Gonur-Tepe served as the central hub of the Margush, or Margiana region, a fertile land located in the delta plains of the Morghab River, which originates in Afghanistan and flows through Turkmenistan. Thanks to this water source, the area once supported thousands of inhabitants, with towns and settlements connected in a vast network. What makes Gonur-Tepe remarkable is not just its history, but its sheer scale. The entire site spans more than 74 acres, so large that it is almost impossible to grasp its full extent from the ground. Only from above can one clearly see the surrounding walls and internal structures, forming a layout that resembles a massive labyrinth in the desert. Think about it. Thousands of years ago, in such an arid environment, there existed an organized urban center with architecture and a developed cultural life. What does that tell us? The person most closely associated with uncovering Gonur-Tepe is the renowned Soviet archaeologist Viktor Saryanidi. Even at the age of 84, he continued returning to the site every summer to carry on his research, proof of just how many secrets this place still holds. Through successive excavations, scientists have discovered that the Bronze Age inhabitants of Gonur-Tepe possessed highly advanced craftsmanship. Artifacts found at the site show that they were not only capable of creating intricate objects, but also had complex cultural and religious practices. But then, what happened to them? Why did such a thriving center disappear, only to be buried beneath the sands for thousands of years? To this day, the answer remains unclear. Looking at the surrounding region reveals a broader picture. Not far away lies Merv, an ancient city that once flourished under the Persian Empire and reached its peak in the 12th century under Turkic rule. At one point, Merv had a population of up to 200,000. making it one of the most densely populated cities in the world at the time. Yet Merv could not escape a similar fate. In 1221, Mongol forces attacked and devastated the city in a brutal campaign, killing tens of thousands. After that catastrophe, Merv gradually declined and became the ruins we see today. Among those remains, the most prominent surviving structure is the Mausoleum of Sultan Sanjar, a massive architectural work with a diameter of over 56 feet, once considered a breakthrough in design for its time. Today, the site has been recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1999. Returning to Gonur-Tepe, what's remarkable is that archaeologists have only excavated a small portion of the area. According to experts, beneath the sand may still lie countless artifacts, perhaps even entire stories that have never been told. Modern-day Turkmenistan remains relatively isolated, yet it possesses an incredibly rich archaeological heritage. Despite limited tourism infrastructure, it continues to attract explorers, those who want to witness firsthand the remnants of a forgotten past. A city that once existed, once thrived, once supported thousands of lives, yet has almost completely vanished from history. Could there be other civilizations still lying beneath the sands, waiting to be discovered? Or is Gonur-Tepe just one of many mysteries humanity has yet to uncover? What do you think the answer is? Don't hesitate to leave a comment below and share your thoughts with everyone. 3 skeletons in Mexico City reveal the tragic history of the first Africans to set foot in the Americas. You know, some stories in history are not written with ink and paper. They are carved into human bones themselves. A powerful example of this is the story of 3 skeletons discovered beneath the ground in Mexico. They remained silent for more than 500 years until science forced them to speak. No names, no documents, no memories. Yet what remains is enough to tell a story that leaves anyone speechless. And that story is not just about them. It is about an entire dark chapter in human history. It all began in 1992 in Mexico City. While construction workers were building a subway tunnel, they unexpectedly uncovered a mass grave deep underground. Inside were 3 skeletons, more than 500 years old, buried at a site that was once an old hospital called Real de San José de los Naturales. From the name alone, you might already guess its purpose. This hospital was built by Spanish colonizers after their conquest of the Americas, intended to treat indigenous people, the meaning behind the term Los Naturales in Spanish. But what shocked scientists was this: these 3 individuals were not indigenous. Through DNA analysis, experts determined that they were of African origin and lived around the 16th century, the very time when the first Africans were brought to the Americas during the transatlantic slave trade. From distant lands in Africa, they were captured, forced onto ships, and carried across vast oceans only to end their lives in a foreign land, unknown, unnamed, and forgotten. Over roughly 300 years, from the 16th to the 19th century, an estimated 10 to 20 million Africans were transported to the Americas as slaves. Under Spanish control alone, about 150,000 people were brought to its colonies, and these 3 men may have been among them. But what makes their story even more haunting are the marks left on their bones. Scientific analysis revealed that all 3 died at around 25 years old, an age that should have been the prime of their lives. Yet their skeletal remains showed severe physical deterioration, resembling that of much older individuals. One man had 5 herniated spinal discs, and his left collarbone was deformed, likely the result of years of carrying heavy loads on his shoulders. Another suffered from osteoarthritis, spinal degeneration, and a previously broken leg that had healed improperly, leaving the bone permanently misaligned. There was even evidence of a deep wound on his forehead that had not fully healed before death. The third man showed similar signs of premature aging in his bones, despite his young age. Notably, one of them had ribs and cervical vertebrae that had turned green, a sign that he may have been shot, with metal fragments embedded in his body. At this point, you might wonder, what kind of conditions did they live under? The answer lies in the condition of their bones: porous, fragile, and severely malnourished. These are clear signs of a poor diet, iron deficiency, and possibly parasitic infections or chronic illness. And it doesn't stop there. Within their teeth, scientists also discovered DNA from dangerous pathogens. 2 of the men carried hepatitis B virus, including a rare strain once found in Africa and Haiti. possibly among the earliest evidence that this disease had traveled to the Americas. The third carried Treponema pallidum pertenu, a close relative of the bacterium that causes syphilis, which can lead to painful lesions in the skin, bones, and joints, damage that is still visible in the skeleton. But how did scientists determine where these men came from? The answer lies in strontium isotopes found in their bones. When humans consume plants, this element accumulates in the body, preserving a chemical signature of the region where they grew up. Analysis showed that all three were born far from the Americas, most likely in West Africa. Not only that, but their teeth also revealed traces of their cultural identity. Some had been filed into T-shaped or V-shaped patterns, practices still associated with certain groups in present-day Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, and Gabon. Even after being taken far from home, they carried their traditions with them until the very end. Treasure of 100,000 ancient coins buried during a time of turmoil, discovered beneath a construction site in Japan. Treasure isn't always hidden in mysterious caves or at the bottom of the deep ocean. Sometimes it lies right beneath our feet, at what seems like an ordinary construction site. And this time, that's exactly what happened at a site in the city of Maebashi, in central Japan. During foundation excavation work, construction workers unexpectedly uncovered a massive treasure buried underground, around 100,000 ancient coins. Just hearing that number is overwhelming, right? What's remarkable is that these coins were not scattered randomly. They were strung together in bundles of about 100 coins each, tied with straw cords and carefully wrapped before being buried. This clearly indicates that the money wasn't lost, it was intentionally hidden. When archaeologists began analyzing the find, they uncovered a fascinating detail. Among the coins were examples of Banliang currency, one of the earliest standardized forms of money in Chinese history. This type of coin was issued under Qin Shi Huang around 210 BC, marking a major milestone in ancient monetary systems. One of the oldest coins in the hoard dates back to around 175 BC, making it more than 2,000 years old. It is relatively small, measuring about 0.9 inches in diameter and only about 0.04 inches thick, with a square hole in the center, a distinctive feature of East Asian coins that allowed them to be strung together. In addition, authorities discovered a straw mat measuring approximately 24 by 39 inches, suggesting that the entire hoard had once been wrapped in straw before being buried. At this point, you can probably picture the scene: someone hastily gathering their wealth, tying it into bundles, and burying it to protect it from some looming danger. But what exactly was that danger? To answer that question, researchers examined a sample of the coins, 334 in total. The results revealed at least 44 different types of currency, spanning a timeline from 175 BC to AD 1265. Most of these coins originated from various Chinese dynasties, ranging from the Western Han to the Southern Song. This indicates that trade between this region and China had been active for a very long time. The most recent coin in the collection dates to AD 1265, and this detail provides a crucial clue. It suggests that the entire hoard was likely buried during Japan's Kamakura period, a time marked by conflict and shifting power. Think about it. During times of chaos, what matters most? Wealth. It's very likely that the owner buried this fortune with the intention of returning to retrieve it once conditions stabilized, but for some reason they never came back, and the treasure remained hidden underground for centuries. Beyond its monetary value, the discovery site itself holds significant historical importance. Archaeologists report that the excavation area spans about 0.6 miles and may have once been the center of the ancient province of Kozuke, the predecessor of modern Gunma Prefecture. This region flourished as early as the Kofun period and played a key role in trade activities. The discovery of such a large quantity of coins further supports the idea that this was once a bustling commercial hub. These 100,000 coins are more than just money. They are traces of an entire economic system, a historical era, and perhaps even the fate of someone who tried to protect their wealth in a time of upheaval. Was the owner a wealthy merchant, a powerful official, or simply an ordinary person trying to preserve everything they had? No one knows for sure, but one thing is clear: the treasure discovered in Maebashi during modern construction has opened a window into the past, where each coin carries a story more intriguing than we could have ever imagined. Gleaming gold ore boulder reveals a 1,000-year-old treasure. Covering an area of up to 8,300 acres, Suicheng Gold Mining Park in Lishui, Zhejiang, China has long been famous for its mysterious interwoven rock caves and breathtaking landscapes. For years, it has attracted nature lovers and adventure seekers alike. Yet no one could have imagined that beneath those seemingly lifeless rocks lay one of the largest gold ore masses ever discovered in China. In 2015, during a mining operation near the park's exit, a research team unexpectedly discovered a strange rock glowing with a shimmering golden hue. At first, a few workers tried to dig it out by hand, but the more they dug, the larger it appeared, until its massive size made any manual effort impossible. Faced with such a promising discovery, experts decided to bring in modern technology. Using an advanced smart mining system, all equipment, from cutting machines to conveyor belts and transport units, was operated remotely with just a click. High-resolution AI cameras continuously monitored every movement, ensuring maximum precision and safety. A specialized measurement system was also integrated to track depth and extraction progress in real time, creating a fully automated process with almost no need for direct human intervention. After hours of work, the hidden treasure finally emerged, a massive gold ore deposit weighing up to 90 tons. What stunned scientists even more was its composition. Each ton of ore contained up to 7.65 ounces of gold and 129.7 ounces of silver, far exceeding all previous estimates. Geological analysis confirmed that this treasure had existed for over 1,000 years, formed in ancient times, and possibly linked to long-buried historic gold mines. To study it further, researchers used 3D AI scanning technology combined with cloud computing to reconstruct its structure, analyze its connections, and examine the surrounding environment. Data from hundreds of points were logically integrated, allowing for an accurate digital reconstruction of the entire mass. This not only marked a breakthrough in archaeology, but also demonstrated how modern technology can be integrated into heritage preservation. After being brought to the surface, the massive gold ore was not sent to a museum or refined. Instead, experts decided to leave it in place at the park, right at the entrance to the scenic area, as a living piece of cultural heritage. A layer of gold powder coating was applied to enhance its appearance and protect it from weather damage. Despite its immense material value, no one has attempted to steal it. The reason is quite practical. The ore weighs up to 45 tons and cannot be moved without specialized equipment, and the entire area is monitored by 24/7 surveillance cameras. For many people, the value of this golden mass lies not only in its precious metals, but also in its deep cultural significance. It stands as a symbol of history, a testament to ancient mining practices, and a reminder of the natural treasures humanity must respect and preserve. Thanks to this discovery, Suicheng Gold Mining Park is no longer just a scenic destination. It has become a living piece of history where past and present intersect in a radiant golden form unlike anything ever seen. If you ever have the chance, it's a place truly worth visiting to witness this extraordinary treasure for yourself. 50-million-year-old fossil of a giant predatory ant discovered in Canada. Imagine this scene. You're walking through a forest, or even just across an open field, and suddenly, beneath your feet, instead of tiny ants, there's a creature nearly the size of a bird. Its wings are spread wide, its jaws are sharp like blades, and it's looking at you as if you were prey. Sounds terrifying, right? Like something straight out of a science fiction movie. But the truth is, about 50 million years ago, creatures like that really did exist on Earth. The story begins when scientists from Simon Fraser University were studying fossils in British Columbia, Canada. Within layers of ancient rock compressed over millions of years, they discovered an extremely unusual fossil. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a typical insect imprint. But the deeper they analyzed it, the more they realized they were looking at one of the strangest creatures ever to inhabit this planet. It was a queen ant belonging to the genus Titanomyrma, a species of giant ant that has long since gone extinct, and what immediately stands out is its size. Estimates suggest this creature could reach the size of a small bird with a wingspan of up to 12 inches. To put it simply, if it flew past your face, you wouldn't think it was an insect. you'd think it was some kind of strange bird. But that's not all. Titanomyrma wasn't just large, it was predatory. That means it didn't simply scavenge or carry small prey like modern ants. It likely hunted and attacked other creatures. In an ancient world that was wild and unforgiving, Titanomyrma was truly a small but terrifying predator. What makes this discovery so shocking isn't just its size, but its location. Before this, fossils of Titanomyrma had only been found in Europe, particularly in Germany and United Kingdom. Now, with this discovery in British Columbia, scientists were faced with a difficult question. How could an ancient insect appear on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean at roughly the same time? After all, no matter how large it was, an ant could not possibly fly across such a vast ocean. So what happened? The answer may lie in Earth's distant past. Tens of millions of years ago, the continents were not separated as they are today. At that time, Europe and North America were connected by land near the Arctic region. This may have acted as a land bridge, allowing species to migrate between the two continents. That explanation makes sense, but it raises another problem. Scientists have observed that large queen ants in the modern world typically exist only in warm climates, mainly in tropical regions. This suggests that for Titanomyrma to grow to such enormous sizes, it would have required high temperatures. So the question becomes, was the Arctic warm enough back then? According to earlier research, in 2011, this same team of scientists proposed an intriguing hypothesis. They suggested that Earth's history included short periods when global temperatures spiked dramatically, like extreme heat waves, but on a geological timescale. These brief warming events may have created ideal conditions for Titanomyrma to migrate across regions that would otherwise have been too cold for them to survive. Initially, scientists believed they would not find Titanomyrma in Canada because the climate there was too cool compared to the species' preferred environment. However, the new discovery in British Columbia has forced them to reconsider that assumption. Even so, one detail continues to puzzle researchers. The newly discovered fossil has been deformed by geological pressure over time, making it difficult to determine its exact size. It may have been as large as the biggest known Titanomyrma specimens, or slightly smaller, but regardless of its true size, this discovery remains incredibly significant. According to paleontologists, studying Titanomyrma not only helps us better understand an extinct insect species, but also provides valuable clues about how ancient climates influence the evolution and distribution of life on Earth. You see, even a single fossil can be enough to reshape our understanding of natural history. Pretty incredible, isn't it? Yes, and those are some of the strangest and most mysterious archaeological discoveries ever found around the world. Artifacts that have not only shocked the scientific community, but also forced us to rethink history itself. Even though modern science has advanced tremendously, there are still countless things we cannot yet explain. Could ancient civilizations have known more than we ever imagined? Or are there still missing pieces of history buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss more mysterious content from the Ancient History channel. And what about you? Which discovery surprised you the most? Leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video, where the mysteries are still waiting to be uncovered.